We're just leaving the G7. Why don't you score where you think we are in this trade battle with China?
Well, whenever they do get back to the table, that'll be a good positive sign. But I think the question is, what kind of negotiation will they have? Is it over our export of certain commodities to China and how much of our stuff they'll buy? Or is it about the fundamental structural reforms in China that the Trump administration has been seeking? That's a much harder negotiation to have. And the question is whether President Trump can translate some of the leverage he has potentially created with the imposition of tariffs into an actual agreement.
Do you think you can get to a finish line on this thing? I mean, there are some Wall Street firms today suggesting that the trade war will go on, in their words, indefinitely.
I think it depends on what kind of agreement you're seeking. You can reach a pretty quick agreement, I think, on de-escalating tariffs and on agreeing on how much China is going to buy of some of our products. But that's not really addressing the underlying issues which this administration and prior administrations have really been focused on. And so hopefully they'll continue to pursue those issues as well. I think one of the challenges is tariffs are easy to put on and difficult to take off. And once they've been on for a while, companies and industries get used to having them on and resist their lifting. You know, we have 25% tariff on pickup trucks in the United States because of something called the Great Chicken War of 1963 with the European Union. They kept our chicken out, we imposed tariffs. 55 years later, they're still in place. And so the longer these tariffs are in place, the harder it's going to be to take them off.
Someone should look at that. Jon, so one of the hardest things to read here, besides what the administration is going to do on policy and how hard of a line they're going to take, is what the Chinese are going to do in terms of their strategy. You hear some people saying they can wait it out. They have a long time frame. They can take the pain. And then you have other people saying their economy is crashing and they're desperate to make a deal. So what's your sense of where the Chinese are?
I think the Chinese feel the economy is being squeezed. They are unsure what to do with the president in the near term. I think they also have an eye toward the longer term. Can they somehow pick apart this rules-based international order, which in some ways disadvantages China, and can they set up bilateral deals? In many ways, the Trump administration is much more open to bilateral deals. China loves bilateral deals because China enters every bilateral deal except with the United States as a stronger party. So I think China also sees a long-term game if the United States pulls away from the multilateral structure and has a more bilateral trade relationship with countries that helps China. I think they're playing between those two extremes, the U.S. in the near term and what the world looks like over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah, Mr. Alterman, do you think that China really wants to make a deal, that they're willing to play on a fair and even playing field?
Every time I've spoken with Chinese officials, they have told me that we're a developing country, we need special exceptions. China is looking to maximize what comes to China. And they have a U.S. president who says we're going to maximize not the system, but what comes to the United States. I think the Chinese are happy entering into that. Like Mike said, I think you're going to see small deals, but I don't think you're going to see a comprehensive deal that's going to pave the way for what the future of U.S.-Chinese competition is going to look like. And what we're seeing from throughout the administration is this is competition that is partly economic and partly military and partly diplomatic, and it has to do with what the future of the world looks like.